My name is Mariana. I'm the energy reader. This is a critique of a critique. I did another one. It was too long and there was too many personal insults in it. So I'm not going to load it. I'm going to redo this, and this is going to be much shorter. Number one, this is a conversation, if you will, with this woman named Susan Gerbic, who is a skeptic. She runs a skeptical website. She's a skeptic of everything she doesn't understand. And she's very condescending, incredibly condescending. She gaslights me in this critique more than a few times. It's really impossible for me to take this point by point. You can go watch her critique, and if you're a critical thinker, you'll see what I saw. First, she messes up the storyline. She changes the narrative to fit what she wants it to do. But starting out immediately, she keeps calling me the medium. And I'll link it in the show notes. I don't have time to video edit the whole thing like she did. I'm not retired. However, she refers to me as the medium. This is an old-fashioned trick to put someone in their place. You refer to them by what they do, not who they are. We have intrinsic value in our names, and my name is Mariana. I am much more than a medium. I have 30 years of publishing journalism experience. I have 2 years of graduate education. Towards a master's of liberal studies with an emphasis in criminal justice. I have a bachelor's degree. I have, a lot of ins and outs in who I am. So just referring to me as the medium is a very underhanded way of already undermining the person that she's speaking to or about. The bird alert. The other recording was much longer, but you don't have that kind of time, and I don't have that kind of time. She does go on to she gets it wrong when she says, oh, she debunked this other case. I provided a link from Reader's Digest where 20 people helped law enforcement through mediumship or psychic ability. And she's like, oh, I debunked it. Well, you didn't debunk anything. You picked one of the oldest cases, you Googled it, and because you didn't find a bunch of stuff online because it was from 1989, then you just dismissed it. Dismissing and debunking are not the same thing. She also then goes on to basically pick apart the LA Times. Now, I also, as a journalist, have picked apart reporters' choices of questions, but that doesn't make their information invalid because I would have asked different questions. Maybe something's missing, whatever, but she goes on to basically, she's smarter than the LA Times. They go on to kind of insult me, saying I didn't provide the best stuff. I don't work for them. I don't work for anyone other than myself and my 9 to 5, right? So if they really wanted to delve into this, there have been studies, there are examples, there are articles, there are documentaries. There's one called Sensing Murder. Now, granted, anything on TV is going to be edited, but these people have been helping law enforcement for a very long time, so it isn't front page news any longer. All right. One of the first things in the reading that she gets wrong is the whole longish thing, and then she kind of catches it after she rewatches it. She says, oh, well, she did say longish. Yes, I did. Because this is a game of charades more than anything. She also completely dismisses the sitter immediately, which is, lets me know how much she doesn't understand mediumship. And she dismisses him at the beginning, and then by the time we get to the end of the critique, she's diagnosing him. So it's a very odd, grandiose sense of importance that she has. She goes on to get the information wrong. I said, tall to me, because sometimes you have to clarify what you mean by short or tall. I said 6 foot to 6'1". She then says 6 foot to 6'6". This is dramatically different. So I keep it point by point. She gets other information wrong throughout the critique. She literally changes some of the narrative. She adds in information that isn't hers to add in. This isn't her story. She has no idea if she's even accurate. She says it's a paid reading. This is an example of a paid reading. This reading was not paid for because I used it for YouTube. So it was an exchange, more or less. Also did apologize to Matan because I was like, okay, now it's like in this skeptic thing and it's being critiqued. He's like, I don't even care. You know me, I'm open to whatever. All right, so I put TV in the bathroom. He does get quite loud. What else was I saying? Okay, so, she says already, she admits that there's something between mediumship and cold reading because she's like, she's not even looking at the sitter. Exactly. I don't look at the sitter so that I'm not distracted by any facial expressions, any tears, any like You know, sometimes you can't hear someone gasp, and so then you're like, do you want me to keep going? So there are things that I look away. It's also that it's the way I work, right? And other mediums will understand that. Some people do look straight at you, some don't. So she says there's something between mediumship and cold reading, and I don't know what that is. I don't know how she's doing this. So she admits she has no idea. She flounders through this entire thing. Then she gets stuck on eye color. I did say eye color. Then she gets stuck on, well, she says he's introverted, but then he's extroverted. Yes, that's duality. As Matan pointed out to me, we had a conversation last night. And he's like, there's a ton of people like that. There's a ton of people, depending on the situation and the example, where an introvert can go be a performer, where a performer likes their quiet time. So this is an actual description. I said thin, but not anorexic, right? I said, so he's thin, but he's not like too thin. And Matan had a term for that, slim thick. So the sitter is able to place the information. This is very specific descriptions. These are very specific. In fact, after watching the clips that she took out of context and like cut up and used, I'm even more proud of this reading. This was a great reading. And then she goes on and she's irritated that I don't have the mother's name and that I don't have this guy's last name. I don't need either one. The sitter knows who I'm talking about. And this is the basic problem with this entire critique, is that Susan doesn't know what she's talking about. Susan doesn't understand mediumship to the point that she's completely floundering. She's completely making misstatements. She doesn't understand that it's more like charades than it is, I was born on a Tuesday at 7:03 and blah, 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 blah. That isn't how mediumship works. Can I explain that? No, I can't. I don't know how it works either. Matan and I are both skeptical. Also, Matan came to me for this reading because he had been to other mediums. He said, I've gotten a lot of other readings and no one can bring Ryan through. I pride myself on being able to bring through people other mediums haven't been able to. He was up to say toward the end of the critique that this is motivated listening on the sitter's part. Absolutely not. Matan, if anything, was testing me to see if I could do what I said I could do because he was coming into my class. And I tell my students all the time, don't get a teacher who hasn't exhibited their ability to do what they say they're going to teach you to do, because that just makes sense. So I tell students this all the time, and I tell other people this all the time. Names, I don't get names in life. Like, I could meet you and forget your name tomorrow. I could meet you and forget your name 5 minutes later, right? So if I don't get names in life, why would that be one of the things that I get all the time in mediumship? It doesn't make any sense. And as my nose itches for all you body language people, I'm not lying. Skeptics, some of these skeptics are they irritate me. They absolutely irritate me because it's that grandiose narcissism that somehow their opinion makes mediumship invalid. Well, my opinion, and this was not an analysis. This was one long opinion. That's all this was. So let me hit some high points. She's assuming and adding things into the reading that didn't even exist in the first place. And she's telling the sitter how the sitter is supposed to react and how the sitter is supposed to feel. Ryan brought up specifics about when Matan was in high school, and then she's trying to manipulate those storylines into some gotcha moment that does not exist. This was a huge failure. This was a flounder all the way through. And to her credit, she actually admits, I don't understand how this is happening, but it isn't real. So she doesn't understand how it's happening. At least she admitted that, but it isn't real. It is. She doesn't seem to even know how conversations work. If you're describing something for someone, I could start describing a tree out there. You may not get what I say at first, and we have to go, well, no, it's more olive colored. It's not necessarily green or hunter green or lime green, it's kind of olive green. Do you understand it now? So there's ways in which you have to explain something that the other person starts catching on to it. So you have sitter coming through my database. I'm just the middle. So it isn't my job to make the connection for the sitter. It's my job to give the sitter information. Now, there's more nuances to it than that, but you can take a class if you're interested. That's the other thing. She promotes her website and says, please follow for more. Here she is marketing, making money off of her skeptical society, making money off of her book, making money off of the things that she goes and talks for. And then she criticizes other people for making money at what they do. That's called a hypocrite. Her career was also as a life touch photographer. So that's like, I think they worked at like Sears, or they went around to schools. And Like it's not like she was some big detective or something like that. And she acts like this is scholarly. This analysis, as she calls it, is an opinion, a very long, drawn out opinion. And it took her 3 hours to critique a half an hour reading. If you understand mediumship, it should take you maybe a half an hour to critique a half an hour reading because you're watching it and critiquing, you're watching it and critiquing. The fact that she dismisses Matan over and over is glaringly just narcissistic. He is the reason that the reading exists. He's the reason that we're doing it. So I don't know why or how she continues to dismiss everything about him. Right, I mean, she's talking about two separate scenarios, or there was two separate scenarios, and she's misconnecting the info as if somehow this matters. She's over the top over the names, and then she's, why don't they give social security numbers? Why don't they give addresses? Why don't they give this? Why don't they give that? You're asking real mediums to give the information that charlatans and con artists give. And see, she lives with a guy, an aging, I'm pretty sure he understands John probably better than she does, since he's, kind of in the same both sides of the fence kind of a personality. So she assumes that we want to give the same information that charlatans and con artists give. And that's a weird ask, because why would I want to do my job the way a charlatan does? The charlatan does it because they're a charlatan and they've gone and gotten this information. I'm reading the way mediumship works. Does that make sense? So it's very confusing why she gets hung up on these things. Why don't they give you this? Why don't? If I could get numbers, I'd get lotto numbers. I mean, let's be real. Let's be realistic. If I could do that, I could quit work and I'd be out there winning the lotto and teaching people how to do it too. It isn't how it works. And they take that comment and they take that statement and they're like, they'll just say it isn't how it works. It isn't how it works. And if you understood mediumship, you would know that. You guys want to say something about Ryan and water and that it was a misstep. And Matan's like, no, it wasn't a misstep. He was afraid of water. He said exactly how you said it is exactly what I understood. And it was a great piece of evidence. Matan is not grieving. This was 7 years ago. He's in a different relationship, headed to grad school. This is a very put together dude. Not only that, but he has no qualms telling anyone, especially me, if I'm wrong. He had been to other mediums. Why would he suddenly tell me what I want to hear? I'm not a celebrity. I'm not paying him. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't even make sense. So this doesn't pass the common sense test, right? For analysis. He was actually trying to test me to see if I could bring Ryan through. And frankly, it was kind of a self-challenge for me because, okay, now I know this person is hard to bring through. Can I do it? Not only can I do it, I did do it. And it was a great freaking reading. God, I'm proud of that reading. Okay. He's not grieving. And why is she critiquing the sitter? So this was a huge misstep on her part. She made it personal because she went from critiquing me, which is what I said, go ahead and critique me. And she started critiquing the sitter. Like, how irresponsible and how arrogant. She not only critiqued him, she says he needs therapy, that he's in grief, that he needs a counselor. How bold and narcissistic for you to tell this sitter what he feels or what he needs. This was 7 years ago. You have no idea what mediumship is about. You have no idea how people practice mediumship. You have no idea how people work in this industry, because all you're working off of is Mark Edwards, this con artist and this charlatan, which is a weird flex. Oh, here's my boyfriend. He used to be a total freaking con artist and a liar. And in my opinion, I'm probably sure. Listen, people don't change their stripes often. Always exceptions to every rule. But you're holding this up as the example of what I should do? Come on. What? Well, my boyfriend, Mark Edwards. Listen, I read those books. I am also skeptical. I'm skeptical of other mediums who do hot readings and who are full of BS. But that doesn't mean I'm suddenly going to wake up one day and be like, oh, that rando lady on the internet that's skeptical, she must be right. Oh, that was the other thing. She tried to basically call into question my sanity because she's like, if she's really seeing this in her mind, I wonder, well, that's the psychology I'm not going to get into. A lot of people see things in their mind's eye. Doctors, doulas. What do you think dreaming is? Like, this is not new. There's a ton of people who see things in their mind's eye, and that's exactly what it is. And that is exactly how it comes in. Sights, smells, ideas. Sometimes you just know. Sometimes you see things. Sometimes you see people pulling people through. That is also not uncommon. But if you knew mediumship, you would know that, which would make it easier for you to do this critique, because this was a failure. But I have more. Hold on. All right. Kind of personal, and just started going after Matan and trying to make now. First, I failed, and now she's trying to go after the sitter, saying the sitter failed. This is the arrogance and the grandiose personality that is required to tell a sitter that she doesn't know and hasn't talked to what he feels and what he needs. I mean, if you don't catch that, I can't help. And this woman has a critical thinking award, which goes to show how far down critical thinking has gone. Okay, let's see. And frankly, it's not up to Susan to decide whether or not this is a good reading or not. You see how I use her name? I use her name because that's who she is. I could go through this whole thing and go, the skeptic. The skeptic said this, and the skeptic said that. But then I dehumanize her. Do you see how that works? All right. She's manipulated the sentences. I don't understand why she thinks names are so relevant. Also, as I was talking to Matan, he said, Ryan didn't mention certain things out of respect. They retain, so people who are passed over, they retain their personality and they retain their right to privacy on the other side. So if he didn't say his mother's name, it's because he didn't want to, right? Matan knew who I was talking about. So why do skeptics get wrapped around the chain about a name? We know who we're talking about. We have placed these people on these pieces of evidence because that's how mediumship works. Okay. She does a lot of yeah, well, or whatever. She's very dismissive, a realization that she can't explain it, and she changes the details to fit what she wish she would have been able to find in this reading. All right, I'm also going to do another video at a different time, a longer form, comparing narcissism personality traits with skeptics personality traits. He goes on to dismiss the fact that they were friends before dating as if that's not a specific piece of evidence, but it is. And Matan points out that it was one of the reasons why they were so in love, is because the relationship grew from friendship into something more. That is a very specific piece of evidence. And anyone in a relationship knows how many different ways a relationship can start. All right, to me, this whole critique, and I use that term loosely because it's really just an opinion. It's an opinion that isn't even based in anything, because she doesn't understand mediumship and she doesn't understand what evidence is, and she's floundering. It's a huge failure. I mean, if this is, I guess, the best that she can do, right? And she doesn't get things right, and she calls into question my sanity, and then she makes it personal with the sitter, and then she goes on to grandiosely say he needs therapy and he's grieving, and this is what you need. For anyone who's made it this far in this critique of a critique, mediumship can go hand in hand with therapy. Mediumship is a wonderful way for closure. Mediumship is a wonderful way to remind ourselves that there's something else out there. What that something else is something that I also still question. I don't know what it is. And I've brought this question up before. Are we talking to intelligent spirit? Are we talking to energy? Who and what are we talking to? But what I do know is that their personalities come through, evidence comes through, very specific messages that pertain to the person's day-to-day life, now come through. There is no way with 300 million people in the United States, or however many people there are, I'm really bad at numbers. There's no way for me to just you can't guess this kind of information. This isn't guessing. So she called it like attentive listening. Listening to what? I'm not looking at him. I'm not asking him questions. I am providing him evidence. He is accepting the evidence. So what am I listening to? And then she says he's motivated to make it fit. No, he isn't. He would have loved for me to fail, to be quite honest. We have a strange friendship. When Tom pointed out again that she's trying to say that the sitter is so motivated to make it fit. He's like, that's just wrong. And you'd have to know Matan. You can go see his TikTok. I think I brought it up. I can't remember. If not, Matan with 5 sevens after it. The critiquer, Susan, she made it personal, and she's not a psychologist. She's not even close to a counselor. She's not a therapist, as far as I can tell from her Wikipedia pages, which here's the other thing. She keeps referring to Wikipedia as if it's an actual viable journalistic avenue. It isn't. People in journalism, people who deal with news sources, Wikipedia is a joke. It is, she makes a whole career out of it. Her page, you should go see how many times her page has been updated and changed, her and this Mark Edwards. Anyways, I'm going to try not to make it as personal as she did, but Wikipedia is not a source of anything. Matonic clearly with other mediums, okay, I think that pretty much covers it. Matan's grandpa was a neuroscientist, and Matan is headed to grad school studying counseling. He was pretty irritated at the way she made it personal, because that's the field that he's in. He's in therapy, and he is learning mediumship. Well, really, he is a medium. I mean, he's a developing medium, but he is a medium. And he was one of the first people to support me on TikTok, but that doesn't mean like I knew him. She's like, they knew each other beforehand. You can know people and give them mediumship readings. There's a whole life to pick from, and there's a whole life for the person that's coming through to pick from as evidence. So these things that she feels are gotcha moments aren't. This critique, this opinion was a complete failure in my opinion. I'll get this uploaded. You guys can refer to her video. You can refer to my video. You ask me questions, whatever you like. But in my opinion, she needs a hobby. I also meant to say that I was going to pick apart some of her website, because the only one that I've read on her website, which was a true gotcha, has been with Thomas John, the seatbelt psychic, where she truly did catch him more or less red-handed. And I've read through a lot of the articles. I read her boyfriend at a certain age. That sounds weird to say boyfriend, but her boyfriend's book. There are no real gotcha moments in her entire website that I found. There's a lot of opinion. There's a lot of, and then they did this, and then they did that. But she's only caught Thomas John so far, and viably so. She caught him red-handed, hot reading. You can go look at that video. It's on YouTube. You can Google holy Kool-Aid, like literal Kool-Aid, and Thomas John debunked, and they did catch him viably red-handed. So I do not deny the existence of cold readers, hot readers, whatever you'd like to call that. But I also understand that real mediumship exists, and real psychic ability exists, and real telepathy exists, and real animal communication exists. So these are the kind of people who will argue with anything. You can literally tell them something specific, and they'll be like, no. I would be embarrassed, literally and figuratively, to have uploaded this critique, because there's no there, using her own words. There's no there. And she admits that I'm not cold reading. And she admits that there's something between mediumship and cold reading, and she doesn't know what that is. And she doesn't know how I'm doing this. Because she refuses to believe what's right in front of her eyes, because she refuses to believe something just out of sheer cognitive dissonance. Like, I'm showing it. It's almost like someone who takes medication, keels over dead, and everyone around him is like, well, it's not the medication. Well, he just took medication and keeled over dead. Are there some cases where, okay, yes, I took medication and had a heart attack at the same time? That's going to be pretty rare. It's like being hit by a car and going, well, I broke my arm, but it's not because of the car. Anyway, if you would like to see more of this type of interaction, or me talking about skeptics, I'll continue to educate. But if you have any questions, please please follow, subscribe, whatever it is on YouTube. Also, I will be doing a blog post, and then that will redirect you to my website. Hopefully I can remember to put everything in the show notes down here. There's also a link I have that shows Teresa Caputo has a brain scan, and how her brain literally changes as she reads. And so these are all, here's the thing, You can't convince somebody of something if they don't want to believe it. It's just the way it is. My name is Marietta. Thank you for watching.